This is a Sports Catastrophe production.
Hey there, ho there, it's Jeff Cutastrophe and welcoming you to another Sports Catastrophe birthday boy. And this birthday boy on February 21st is another basketball player. Yeah, you may be thinking, why are you doing basketball 2 days in a row? Well, given the fact that I don't think Jake Muzzin deserves a birthday boy thing, because he's still in a few years of his career. I don't want to jinx him. So I decided to go with Steve Francis. Now, Steve Francis is a polarizing figure. He is today 44 years old. He was actually named co-NBA Rookie of the Year, not Rookie of the Year, but co-MVP Rookie of the Year alongside Elton Brand in his first season. He was picked second from the University of Maryland in 1999. He played for Orlando and New York alongside Houston, and he finished his career in the Chinese Basketball Association. He was known for his crossover dribble, driving ability, and feisty dunks. Basically, Steve Francis had a terrible upbringing and all that. His mom died of cancer in '95, and his grandmother was a parent figure to him. He had stopped playing basketball after his mom died. His dad served 20 years in jail for a bank robbery. Francis's stepfather, who was a garbage collector, was his best friend, and unfortunately, he had to have food stamps and lived in an apartment with 18 people. Basically, Francis began working for drug dealers at 10 years old and sold crack cocaine on the streets. He only played 2 high school basketball games in his career. He attended 6 high schools, but he dropped out of school because his mom died. Francis got a GED after having an offer to play college basketball for San Jacinto College. He attended a few junior colleges. However, Maryland took notice, and he wanted to play for his home state, so he played for the University of Maryland Terrapins. They looked good and all that. He was Maryland shooting guard, and he was huge. The Terps were actually number 2 in the nation by December, which is pretty good, too. The Terrapins ended up being a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament, but lost to St. John's, the school from New York, in the Sweet 16. They were ranked 5th in the final poll. I don't know why. They didn't even make it to the quarterfinals. He decided to enter the NBA draft, even though he could have played a senior season with Maryland and all that. So, basically, yeah. So, Steve Francis was drafted 2nd overall in the 1999 NBA draft. Elton Brand went first to Chicago, who were really struggling without MJ. Basically, Chicago would have a fire sale and sell their best players and all that. But anyway, Steve Francis was drafted 2nd by the Vancouver Grizzlies. But he publicly announced he would not play for Vancouver, citing the distance from his Maryland home, taxes, endorsements, and God's will. Yeah, right, like it's God's will and all that, not to play in Canada. I don't believe that. But anyway, yeah, the taxes and the endorsements thing. We thought that he probably can't get it playing for a Canadian team. Hey, Vince Carter got endorsements playing for Toronto, so fuck you, man. He actually considered joining the Grizzlies after basically being heavily criticized. However, there was an incident at the Vancouver International Airport that convinced Francis he needed to go somewhere. And Francis got a swish. He got traded to Houston in a 3-team, 11-player deal that basically sent players to the Grizzlies. Vancouver got Michael Dickerson, Ovella Harrington, Anton Carr, and Brent Price, and a few picks. Michael Dickerson would be a key part of the Grizzlies in Vancouver for the last few seasons. They were in Vancouver. Ovella Harrington wasn't that bad. Anton Carr wasn't around anymore, and Brent Price was just terrible. Steve Francis shared Rookie of the Year honors with Elton Brand and actually was runner-up in the famous 2000 Slam Dunk Contest to Vince Carter. The Rockets were terrible. They were 34-48. The Rockets did improve in all of that. Unfortunately, by the time he could start the 2002 All-Star game, he had foot injury, and he had migraines. Many years did the season, kind of like vertigo and all that. As a result, the Rockets were very dismal. The Rockets, even though they won 28 games, I think there were a few teams that were worse than them. They actually ended up getting the number 1 pick in the draft lottery. That was Yao Ming. Francis and Yao gelled and were named All-Star game starters. Basically, Steve Francis still did pretty well for himself. The Rockets finally made the playoffs for the first time in Steve Francis's time in Houston. But the Rockets lost to the Lakers in 5 games. Steve Francis did not have a good relationship with Jeff Van Gundy when he became coach. The Rockets decided to trade Francis and Coutinho Mobley and Kelvin Cato to Orlando for Tracy McGrady, Juwan Howard, Tyronn Lue, and Reece Gaines, because T-Mac played for Orlando after leaving Toronto. For 3 years, he would play for Orlando, but he adapted to his new environment, the running gun offense. You know, the Magic looked good, but unfortunately, after Coutinho Mobley was traded to Sacramento, Steve Francis slipped up a bit, and basically Orlando slumped and missed the playoffs. There were rumors he was going to be traded to Denver for Earl Watson, but Francis was very disgruntled. In February 2006, before the trade deadline, Francis was traded to New York, the Big Apple, for Trevor Ariza and Penny Hardaway. Prior to the trade, the Nuggets were going to give up Watson and Kenyon Martin for Francis, but it didn't take place. He wore jersey number 1. His usual number 3 was taken by Stephon Marbury. Of course, Francis would have a recurring injury, tendonitis in his right knee, and basically just didn't do that well. And on draft night in 2007, the Knicks decided to get rid of Francis, trading him and Channing Frye to Portland for Sacramento, Dandeko, and Fred Jones. They didn't really get much in the deal and all that. Portland bought out Francis's contract, making him an unrestricted free agent. And so Houston, the Clippers, Dallas, and Miami wanted to pursue him. So he decided to go back to Houston, even though Miami gave the most money. But unfortunately, the rotation system ruined him. And he had to have season-ending injury after only 10 games. Francis lost weight trying to get back on his feet for Houston. But Houston didn't think they wanted him. So on Christmas Day 2008, they traded him to the Grizzlies, well, aka Memphis. It was for a conditional draft pick, so that the Rockets could draft under the luxury tax threshold. But the Grizzlies waived him without playing a game in Memphis. Anyway, yeah. Steve Francis got his number 23 jersey retired by the University of Maryland before their game against Duke and all that. Francis unfortunately suffers from Meniere's disease, something in his inner ear that causes vertical tinnitus and aural fullness, aka migraines. Unfortunately, Steve Francis became an alcoholic after leaving basketball and all that. But after an arrest in 2017, he vowed to get himself clean, and he did. So he played in 576 regular season games, 18 points a game, 6 assists, 5.6 rebounds. Only 1 playoff appearance, 2004 with Houston. And unfortunately for him, his time in China sucked. He had only 2 total points in 4 games. So basically, that just sucks. I mean, all that. So anyway, Steve Francis still was a decent player when he was healthy and committed to his craft. That's all I'm going to say about it, really. I'm Jeff Diamond. Ado.